So we want to let you know, hey, something's happening in your neighborhood, might be good. But we're also going to say, hey, if they're using patterns that are similar to when a robbery happens, right? So we might say, hey, here's an alert. This might be a nefarious drone. They don't have remote ID. It's a dark drone. We'll record as much as we can for you so that you can fill a police report.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 441. How can property owners stay one step ahead of drone threats? For that question, we head to Brooklyn, New York, to speak with Mike Fraietta, co-founder of Gargoyle Systems. Gargoyle Systems is a leader in drone detection technology that delivers real-time aerial threat intelligence to security professionals, businesses, and homeowners. With advanced detection capabilities and seamless integration, Gargoyle Systems enables proactive protection against unauthorized drone activity. The company is currently building America's first decentralized drone intelligence network, designed to detect and track both friendly and hostile aerial activity, providing real-time awareness of unmanned aircraft in the skies. With a background in innovation and systems thinking, Mike was early to recognize the urgent need for smarter, scalable solutions in aerial security as drones proliferate across commercial, consumer, and military sectors. In this episode of the Drone Radio Show, Mike talks about Gargoyle Systems, their decentralized drone intelligence network, and how individual asset managers can protect against the growing threat of drone-enabled crime. He also shares insights from his recent visit to the Russia-Ukraine border, where he studied evolving dark drones, counter-drone technology, and operational training led by the Ukrainian Drone Command. But before we hear from Mike, I want to stress that your support is the heartbeat of my podcast. Every episode is crafted with you in mind, and your generous donations ensure I can keep delivering the content you love. Whether it's the price of a coffee or a more substantial contribution, every bit helps to defray the cost of production. Donate today and be a vital part of the podcast's continued journey to greatness. To donate, go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And if you can, please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and leave a nice review. It really helps improve the podcast ranking among the many thousands of active podcasts today. And by the way, if you have a great story on the use of drones that you'd like to share in the podcast, contact me at randy@droneradioshow.com. So let's learn how individual property owners can protect against a growing threat of drone-enabled crime with Mike Fraietta of Gargoyle Systems. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Mike to introduce himself.
My name is Mike Fraietta, and I'm the founder of Gargoyle Systems, and we do drone detection.
Mike, can you tell us about Gargoyle Systems? What does the company do? And what makes Gargoyle Systems stand out from other companies in this space?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it started with a friend of mine in LA. He got robbed and they took a safe out of the second story floor, not with a drone, but they used a drone to case him out and then used the drone during the robbery itself. And my buddy Matteo is my co-founder. He's an engineer. He's actually built drone detection before. I was telling him about this, and surely enough, there's a ring or nest for drone detection because this has got to be more common every day. And there wasn't. There's a lot of drone detection for military uses, for stadiums, airports, and prisons and whatnot. But we're looking for an affordable solution for the average homeowner or HOA, high rise, to have this kind of drone detection system for them. And since we started going down this journey, we hear stories every day of similar stories of the drone came up through the looking on the high-rise glass building and looked through and noticed nobody was home, and then someone kicked in the door right from there. So it's been kind of this snowball effect of, all right, finding out more where the needs are, and ultimately leading us to head to work with the Ukrainians last week in Estonia to understand like the latest and greatest what's happening over there. But from a high level, we're looking at a distributed, decentralized network to be rolled out in small cities at first that anybody can tap into. So the network nodes should be around a city or vicinity. And if you're interested in subscribing and want the data to know if there's a unmanned or AI vehicle in the vicinity of you, we're using radio frequency and acoustic detection. You should be able to subscribe to that. Or if your city is so inclined to give it to all of its citizens, that would be great too. So we're looking at a decentralized node network to create situational awareness for law enforcement, for average citizens, and for our citizens and our assets across the board.
Are you saying there's a trend where criminals are using drones to break into homes?
Yeah, see when the truck leaves the driveway, or the people are leaving, and then it's go time. And if you think about it, if you're going to conduct a robbery, why would you not have eyes in the sky, right? I mean, it's almost it seems pretty obvious after you start hearing about it so many times that trend, yes, has been going on for quite some time, as we found out, and we almost hear stories every day of similar instances.
The network you're planning to deploy, for a homeowner, does that mean they just need to subscribe and then they'll get a notification on their phone of a drone in the area?
Hypothetically, yes. Yeah, that's the idea, is you're just like your Ring or Nest camera. There's someone at the door. It might be Amazon delivery driver, but it might be somebody, with a baseball bat. We're just going to let you know that, friend or foe. And if they are legit and they have remote ID and they're registered, we can at least say, hey, these Amazon or Walmart delivery drones, they're whitelisted. They're okay. Or it's the photographer who reported his mission ahead of time for the real estate company, right? So, more often than not, because we want to see more. We want to see more drones. We want to see more great uses. But at the same time, people don't know what they are, even if they are in a good use. So we want to let you know, hey, something's happening in your neighborhood. Might be good. But we're also going to say, hey, this, we'll use some AI algorithms to see kind of if they're using patterns that are similar to when a robbery happens, right? So we might say, hey, here's an alert. This might be a nefarious drone. They don't have remote ID. It's a dark drone. We'll record as much as we can for you so that you can fill a police report. We don't get into the mitigation or anything like that, just kind of detection of letting you know that it's there.
What is acoustic detection and how is it used in drone deterrence?
So you've got 4 types of drone detection: radar, radio frequency, optical, and acoustic. And radar is very effective for big class 3, 4, 5 drones, and also very, very expensive. Optical is obviously the camera, and then acoustic more for the dark drones. So what we saw with the Ukrainian teams is fiber optic, for example. So they're putting this string. It sounds silly at first. It's like a kite, right? You're putting a string on a drone, but they started doing it because jamming signals. So they're knocking the radio waves, knocking the drones right out of the sky, jamming signals. Well, you can't jam something that's tethered to a fiber optic wire. And that came out, and then a few months later, it's on Alibaba for a couple $100. You can buy a spool of this fiber optic wire. And then you're starting to see it in Myanmar, and then the cartels are using it in Colombia. So the idea of having a dark drone, whether it's a fiber optic, or we also see a lot of kind of this last kilometer or last mile AI, where you're sending it, you've got radio frequency, and then at one point you're setting its destination and you're letting AI kind of run with it from there. This way the radio is turned off. So as these nefarious uses pick up, we also want to be able to pick up these dark drones as well. And it's also redundancy, right? So if we're able to triangulate on the sounds of the propellers themselves and the radio frequency, it just gives us a more specific location of where these drones are.
Are you using specialized microphones to detect drones? How's it work?
We're still honing in on that, right? So it's, we don't want to hear conversations. We don't want to hear cars. We don't want to hear, we want to hone in really on the specific sound that it creates. We've seen a lot of this in bird tracking and bird identification. So we're kind of approaching it the same way so that we're just listening for propeller type sounds to start with. Yeah.
Where are you currently in the development of the system?
We had a prototype and tested and worked. We had people willing to pay for it. We've had some pre-orders, so we have some revenue of when they're ready to go. But we frankly told them that, our prototype is not ready to be deployed. We'd be at your site every week. It's not weather tested. We've got a lot to do. So it works. It's great. They're happy to buy it. But at the same time, we really need to build them right. So we're in the process now of getting our first 20 units built so that we can have beta testers use them. And those are mostly security companies that are kind of a B2B2B. They're in charge of securing a bank or securing an HOA. And then we've got a couple in Kiev from the Ukrainian Drone Command that want to try them out in the city as well there.
You've mentioned Ukraine a few times, so let's talk about it. What's Gargoyle's connection to Ukraine?
Well, we've been following these Telegram channels, and Telegram is a messaging app where a lot of people are sharing their kind of quote unquote top secret, what's happening there, what they're doing, how to build things. And, this is where the bed of innovation is in this sector, without question. So, you think of Silicon Valley and, or different hot spots throughout history in terms of tech. The Ukraine, I don't know if it's the government, but the mentality there is a startup environment. So there's accelerators, there's incubators, there's incentives to build there, and they are on the cutting edge of what's happening. You might also say the same on the Russian side, but we've been more in contact with the Ukrainian side. This is where, again, the latest and greatest is happening because it's life or death. So they're figuring it out, testing in the field in real time and developing new technology. Again, that goes from here to China to wherever in the world. And it's, coming to a backyard near you. But they are, without question, the kind of leaders on the planet right now in developing a lot of this stuff in terms of pure battle and detection, these types of things, versus China, who's leading the way and actually creating the drones themselves. But in terms of the battle testing, it's happening in Ukraine.
What lessons did you take away from Ukraine about how drones are changing modern warfare? And do you think the U.S. is prepared to engage in similar drone strategies?
The answer to the U.S. question is no. I don't think so. I mean, I'll start with lessons learned. Again, it's a incubator accelerator of these technologies, so they're moving fast. The other lessons learned, I suppose, are just being able to see how the Drone Command is actually leading the front line. I just assumed they were kind of part of the assistance, but the drone teams are a huge, huge part of holding the territory where it's at right now. And I assume, again, I was like, oh, so you're covering the army, and they're like, no, we're leading the way here. So that was kind of, maybe obvious to some, but for me, it was kind of shocking to see, like, wow, this is where we're at now in war technology. Is drones are one of the if not maybe not the most important, but one of the most important units out there. Now, your question about the U.S., I fear this is why I can't sleep at night. This is why I feel like we need to create these systems yesterday in terms of Gargoyle Systems, whatever it might be. But we really need to think about how we're going to protect our citizens and our assets, because it's really not an if, but when, whether it's domestic or international terrorist attack or any of these things, just what we're able to see now in real time in battlefields in Gaza and Ukraine. It's just like any other war technology. It comes home really quick. And I am really, really fearful that we are not set up yet. And it's going to be one of those things where, okay, now after something happened, now let's see what we can put in place. I'd rather be proactive and get things out there. So we're really mission driven and hoping to protect our citizens and our assets.
Earlier, you mentioned dark drones, and you gave a brief explanation. But can you expand a bit more on what makes dark drones so concerning?
I don't know if there's a clear definition of dark drones, but the way we're approaching it is, if you're in the US and you've got a remote ID and you're signaling like, hey, I've got a legitimate mission here or recreational activity that I'm conducting here, great. Then there's frequency hopping going on the channels that aren't common, that aren't approved. So maybe using radio frequency still, but using illegal channels. Then there's the fiber optic. So you're not able to be detected at all using radio frequency. So you're clearly not emitting a remote ID signal there. And then the AI drones as well. So those are set on a mission, usually kind of on a one-way suicide mission, if you will, which are not on radio frequency once they hit the AI mode.
And your system is able to detect dark drones?
That's where the acoustic comes in, is, hey, they're off radio frequency, but we're still able to hear the propeller. So I don't think anyone's going to ever state that we're going to be able to detect all drones, but this is where we're looking to be able to detect those particular dark drones. And the technology is only going to continue to evolve. So those are kind of the three that we're looking at now.
What should the U.S. be thinking about as it works towards developing a national drone strategy?
Yeah, I think we need a drone command yesterday, a drone czar, if that's what it needs to be called. We recently saw AI and crypto czar appointed. I feel like this technology is just as relevant and important, and it's got to be security focused, right? So the FAA, they're stretched thin as it is, and they are a safety organization, right? They do a job to keep safety. They are not a security organization, and that's why the TSA was created. I'm not saying replicate exactly, the TSA, but if having a drone command that is focused on security is something that we really need to prioritize now before it's too late.
When it comes to protecting specific assets, like airports, for example, do you see drone defense falling under Homeland Security, the TCEA, or another agency? Where do you think it best fits within the national security framework?
A bit of both, collaboration, which is they typically don't go so well, but I think Homeland Security would be the priority here for it. And whether, again, like maybe it could be the drone force, similar to its own branch, like the Space Force type thing, and then they're now working with those other agencies, and then also handing down best practices or train the trainers in terms of local law enforcement to have a stronger network across the country. So I think it should be its own. But again, one guy on the internet's opinion.
What gaps do you see in current U.S. drone policy that leave us vulnerable?
Again, I'm going to say the biggest is having it on the FAA, whether, I think we've seen recently that they are overstrained, and it's like, hey, also take care of this as well. So I think it's the same answer as before. I think there's no clear distinction on who has authority, right? So let's talk about it's above a stadium. There's a potential drone with explosives above a stadium that's full. Is that the FAA? Is that federal aviation? Are we talking local police enforcement? Are we talking about the security team? That's personal property. If it falls down and it hits somebody, there's obviously risk in that too, right? If you knock out a radio signal and jam it out, are you also going to knock out hospitals close by that are dependent on Wi-Fi? And now, so there's no clear distinction on kind of who has authority in these type of situations, and that's, I think, just a major gap in where we are. And maybe, again, not to say which way it should go, but if there is a federal and then a local law enforcement that have the capabilities and abilities to act on it, kind of would be ideal of what I see, but we need to start from square one.
In Ukraine and Russia, both sides are innovating rapidly because they're in active conflict. Here in the U.S., we don't have that same immediate pressure. So how can we ensure that we stay ahead of the curve so that we don't find ourselves in having to innovate on the run?
You've seen some really good innovation out of both Tulsa and Reno. Reno has a massive new testing site. I think I don't know how public that is, but it may be coming. I think it's somewhat public, kind of out near the rest of Nevada towards Burning Man area type thing. We need to see these type of testing areas where we can see what happens when jammers are deployed, when we are combating something that's on a tether. I think the testing part of it really needs to be happening today here. Again, like we saw, the Ukrainians have been living it, but they're also testing in real time. We saw a testing center in Estonia, which allows for exactly all of that. And I don't think we're seeing any of that here. I could be wrong. There could be some top secret missions happening, but having those kind of testing grounds would be step one. And I think there's more happening than we realize, right? I think for years it's been known that drugs have been coming over the border using drones. And again, these robberies are happening and it's upticking. I just feel like we need to prepare overall and treat this like a serious threat, as if this is the next front of war, but it's also coming to our shores. But it's hard to do that without, real examples happening here in the US.
You did mention that drones are being used by the cartels along the U.S. border for surveillance and even transporting drugs. What have you learned from the border situation that could help us build better deterrent strategies?
I think radar is being deployed there. I think kind of the redundancy of using all of those four methods of detecting drones should hypothetically be deployed. And I believe the Border Patrol has their own drones. I think we've definitely seen some footage of theirs. Again, it comes out to be similar to the Ukraine-Russia situation where they're now battling each other with the drones, and we need to keep up with the Joneses, if you will, at the border. I don't know how strong the Border Drone Command is, if there's such a thing, but for me, that's an obvious need of like what we need to be looking at, and it's a real testing ground for us.
Do you think the biggest challenge right now is a lack of technology or a lack of funding?
I think the technology is there without question. We saw Ukrainians, they're using whatever bits they can get. They've got small 3D printers. They're using, the vape battery cartridges that are thrown in the trash and reusing those and putting those to create drones. So I think the tech is cheap in here. There is also the big conversation around DJI drones, right? So these are Chinese made and they are the cheapest ones, and they're great products. But this is what our local law enforcement is using to deploy for good things. But is it in our best interest to be buying technology and hardware with software tied to China? So I think it's here, but it's also a lot cheaper if we just buy it from China. So I think it's more of a command of who's running the show here. As we saw in the quote unquote New Jersey drone situation, nobody really knew had an answer because there was no one in charge of drones. So I think it's more of a centralized command is what we're lacking right now.
Is Gargoyle Systems focused more on the civilian market, the military market, or both?
More so the urban environment initially and the civilian environment. So we've gotten approached by a lot of people concerned with privacy, whether that's intentional or not, coming onto their estate. A lot of folks that, don't maybe celebrity-esque and they do not want drones spying on them. So yes, a bit of the civilian, but we really are looking at the network. We really want to create these micro networks initially over universities, small cities, and then prove that this is something that we can roll out across the nation and across the world, frankly. When we talk to a lot of people at the Department of Defense, we have capability, but we don't have capacity. So if we at Gargoyle Systems can use innovative ways to incentivize people to put these on their roofs, contribute to the network for detection, and also earn by just doing so, that's where we want to go. That's what we want to do, is have this overall detection network. And in the meantime, we're going to help fulfill the customers that are coming in saying, hey, we've got a radar detection system now and it's good, but we need some redundancy, or we really can't afford something like that. So Gargoyle more suits our needs. So that's where we're focusing now. But long term, we really want to create that network.
You talked about placing systems on individual properties as part of a broader network. Do you have a larger roadmap for building out that system?
Yeah, I mean, I've been building decentralized systems for a while, kind of in this and participating in them. We've seen things like Helium Network, which is a mobile network. I have a Helium node on my building in Brooklyn, which people tap into, and it earns $30 a month or something like that for having them being part of the network there. We see NYC Mesh, which is also in my neighborhood, which is a mesh network of Wi-Fi where they incentivize people to put nodes on the roofs and whatnot. So looking at being inspired by those and kind of copying a little bit of that in terms of like, all right, if you put something up here, we're going to incentivize you to do so. So yes, the roadmap is start small, find pockets where we can say, all right, great, we've got now a drone coverage network over small town X, and everybody is covered in it, including the hospitals, the schools, everybody who didn't realize they needed it, and then roll out from there and kind of help cover the entire country.
What's next for Gargoyle Systems?
Our beta units are coming, and we're really, really excited to get them and get them in the hands of our beta users. So that's what's next for us. And we are going to continue to look at different ways of how we can have decentralized drone commands even locally. So thinking about, the fires that are happening here, is there, people, without asking they're interfering with police enforcement. Well, guess what? A lot of these people would like to help participate with it. So can we help get them certified and help the police and, there's these, decentralized network of drones sitting in people's houses and they could use So we really want to help. We're looking at different types of leadership roles in that, in helping local law enforcement with our already existing drones and helping deploy those for law enforcement, for fire departments.
Without naming names, can you tell us about your beta testers? Are they individuals, research groups, asset managers? Who typically participates in your beta testing?
The University of Tulsa bought our first unit, and they've got a micro smart city coming out, and they want a drone detection within their smart city there, but also, to test it with it. But they're all security providers. One's a security provider for a bank. One's a security provider for HOAs and high-end clients. I'll give you the example of the HOAs. He's like, I had someone robbed in Maryland and someone robbed in Florida, and they had drones, part of the robbery on both of them. I need to roll these out to all my customers. I'm just going to add it as a line item. You're getting your Wi-Fi, you're getting your cameras, and you're also getting a gargoyle. So these are the folks that we're trying, that are calling us every week saying, when are these gargoyles going to be ready? We're going to get it out to them first.
One fun question. Do the deployed systems actually look like a gargoyle?
In our little 3D mock-ups, yes, they do. When chatting with the folks in Ukraine, they said, please don't. Just keep them as camouflage as possible. We don't want them to be obvious targets. So we want them to look like gargoyles for sure. I mean, they fit the bill. They sit on your house and protect it from the evil demons. So I think there will be a gargoyle-shaped version.
Is there anything that we missed that we should talk about?
No, I mean, I think this goes a little broader in terms of just AI and unmanned vehicles in general. That's also something that's kind of come up, is like, hey, we're also detecting other grounded drones, if you will. So delivery pods that are unmanned and using radio frequency. So this whole data layer of where we're going with unmanned and AI vehicles, if the thesis is there's only going to be more of it, we're going to be looking at capturing that data. So if there's anything to unpack there, happy to talk about it.
And for my final question, Mike, what message would you like to leave regarding the future of the drone industry?
It's time to have a drone command in the USA and across every nation to really start thinking about drone defense as a critical infrastructure.
That's it for episode 441 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Mike Fraietta of Gargoyle Systems. I want to thank Mike for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Gargoyle Systems or want to connect with Mike, check out the webpage at gargoylesystems.io. If you like the Drone Radio Show, then please subscribe and share. Write a glowing review on iTunes. And if you're able, donate to keep the podcast going. Go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.